All right, so every year, August 1 to 7 is dedicated as Breastfeeding Week. We want to spend time on the subject today because the World Health Organization recommends mothers worldwide to exclusively breastfeed infants for the child's first 6 months to achieve optimal growth, development, and health. Now, breastfeeding is a normal way of providing young infants with the nutrients they need for healthy growth and development. Exclusive breastfeeding is recommended to up to 6 months of age. Yes, but you know, we're so busy these days. We have only 3 months of maternity leave. We cannot afford to stay home. We cannot afford to do more than 3 months at home. So how do you best comply with this 6 months exclusive breastfeeding? How about if you have challenges, the breast milk is not coming? What are the appropriate substitutes for your baby? My guest is Veronica Gomez. She's a former breastfeeding coordinator, but also an infant and young child feeding consultant. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
So, are we still going by the 6 months? Does it still work?
Yes.
Exclusive for 6 months?
Yes, we are going by it. It's still working for a lot of mothers. And this is shown by our exclusive breastfeeding rates in the country. Yes.
Why do we have to do the 6 months?
It's been found out from several researchers that breast milk is the only food which is adequate for the baby for the first 6 months. It contains all the water the baby needs. It contains all the nutrients, starting from carbohydrate, protein, and it also contains anti-infective substances which fight against infections in the newborn baby. So it is very appropriate for the baby at that age.
I know that no water when you're doing the exclusive breastfeeding.
Yes.
Why do we have to do that? Because sometimes some parents still feel that they have to give their baby some water.
Yes, furthermore, you know, all the things we are doing is based on evidence. And evidence shows that, researchers show that when you take the breast milk, it has enough water. About 80% of the milk is water. So that you have only 20% as nutrients and other components. So then there is no point giving water again. And when a baby is exclusively breastfeeding and the baby is urinating, you find out that for the baby to be able to urinate, then it means the baby is taking adequate water. Yes.
Because, you know, sometimes when you have your mother or your grandmother with you, they would say that, oh, but when we're raising you, we gave you water. So why is this new rule of strictly 6 month breastfeeding no water business?
Yes. It's because the whole world is dynamic. Things change and new findings are coming out. And as new findings come out, human beings change, you know, to suit. Now we are in the, what would I say, the IT world. And you realize the things which are coming up. They were not there when our mothers were young or when they were having us. But now, these are the new things coming up. We all have to adapt to the new findings.
So our mothers, I mean, with your experience, do you see mothers going by this rule? Are we sticking strictly to the 6 months?
Mothers are doing it. A lot of mothers are doing it. In fact, when we started this exclusive breastfeeding campaign in Ghana in the 90s, 1992, the exclusive breastfeeding rate in Ghana was 2%. But then as of 1988, it has risen to 63%. So about 63 out of 100 mothers were practicing the exclusive breastfeeding. We are not talking about only urban areas, but when you go to the rural areas, they have embraced the concept so much so that most of them do it. It's unfortunate that these few times the rate has dropped a little, but the Ghana Health Service is working at it again to get it.
Why has it dropped in your view? Is it because we're so busy these days?
I think there are a lot of reasons, you know. One can be the working mother, and that is what we are on this year. Because she goes to work, she feels that she cannot do the exclusive breastfeeding. She has to stop. The other thing has been due to several factors, you know, there have been a reduced rate of campaign. In those days, the campaign was very aggressive, but now it's gone down a little. you know, and that is why. But we are getting back to it again.
Okay. Are we seeing, in terms of not breastfeeding, I mean, not doing the 6 months, is there a result to show? For instance, are we suffering from the effects of not doing it for 6 months?
Yes, when you take a percentage of mothers who are not doing it for 6 months, you realize that the rate of infections, the rate of going to hospitals, you know, among the babies is higher than the mothers who are doing exclusive breastfeeding. When a mother is doing exclusive breastfeeding, it's very rare for the mother to for the baby to fall sick within the first 6 months. You know, you realize that the baby is healthy, the baby is eating adequately, the baby is very joyful and happy. But then the mothers who rather give other foods, like the infant formula, like the local foods, cocoa, you know, to the baby, you find out that most of them get diarrhea, most of them get other infections, upper respiratory tract infections like coughs, colds, pneumonia, you know. And this is because the breast milk contains the substances which prevent such infections. They fight against those infections. Will you believe that white blood cells can be found in breast milk? Yes, white blood cells that we find in blood. They are living cells in the breast milk, and they fight against infections. Yes.
All right, you're still watching our discussion on breastfeeding. Still in the World Breastfeeding Week. And we've been joined by Senior Nutrition Officer with the Accra Health Directorate, Nana Ekwia Atefa, also on the subject. So good morning and thank you for coming.
Good morning.
All right. So Auntie Vero and myself were talking about, you know, this, why we have to exclusively breastfeed for 6 months. But I understand that the numbers are going down. Yeah. We're not exclusively breastfeeding as we were doing in the past. And I was asking what has accounted for this. So is there anything concrete that you know?
Again, a lot of women now think that using formula is fashionable, and so they would want to use formula, I mean competing amongst the different brands to show who can buy the most expensive, and so the rates are dropping. Yeah. Okay. And again, at our workplaces we can see that absenteeism amongst women is increasing because they have to attend to their sick children.
Amazing. But you know, sometimes after delivery the milk simply won't come and you have to introduce something else to the baby.
I think it's a psychological thing, just like the woman would decide to buy this kind of fabric when she delivers. Before delivery, you have to psych yourself that you would breastfeed at all costs. I have a 15-day-old baby and I had a cesarean session. A lot of women would say with the pain you can't breastfeed, but I managed to breastfeed that day. My child wasn't introduced to formula. I had made up my mind I want to breastfeed and I would breastfeed.
Are you saying that in some cases? Because in some cases some people don't get the milk at all.
Once the child is put to the breast and starts suckling, there's signals that goes to the brain to say there's a baby, and so produce breast milk, and then breast milk is produced.
Auntie Vero wanted to add something.
And it's exactly what I wanted to say. And when there is a delayed initiation of breastfeeding, the mother doesn't start breastfeeding early enough, then the messages don't go to the brain to tell the brain and the breast to make the milk. Put in simply terms, it's a hormonal thing. So immediately the baby is born, within the first 30 minutes, we expect the baby to be put to breast. The baby starts suckling. Then the sensation makes the breast to start producing the milk through the hormones. Some mothers don't do that. You know, there is a delayed initiation. And when there is a delayed initiation, breast milk coming in delays. But then notwithstanding that, by the 7th month of pregnancy, there is milk in the breast. Breast milk already starts coming in. So when the baby starts, you know, suckling, the baby still gets the small amount that he needs at that time, called colostrum. And this colostrum is very concentrated, very thick, it's yellowish in color, and when it comes, it comes in very small amounts. That is how God made it. So then you don't have to see your breast very full, very big. The real breast milk, the transitional milk, the real milk comes in within the first 3 days. So it's a
After
slow
delivery.
process, yes.
Okay.
By the 3rd day, you are bound to see a lot of breast milk in your breast. So you just have to be patient. And mothers just have to be patient.
But in the meantime, should the baby go hungry?
The baby
if the baby's
doesn't
not
go
getting
hungry,
enough.
as I'm saying that there's colostrum. Colostrum is very small. It goes to line up the intestinal walls so that it prevents any infection. So that is its work. And it's been made that way so that for the first 1 to 2 days, that is all the baby needs. Yes.
Nanika, how often should you breastfeed your child? If you've just delivered.
On demand. Once the baby wants to suckle, you should put the baby to the breast. And if the mother thinks the baby has slept too much and needs to breastfeed, so we don't have timed sessions for breastfeeding. We say on demand.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's concentrate on the working mother now. If you're working, you can't be breastfeeding on demand.
Yes.
You can leave some milk at home, but you may not be able to leave enough milk for the child. So what do you do?
Before you start working, you would have been on maternity leave. So whilst on maternity leave, you have to start expressing milk and storing for the baby. And again, a lot of the women express in the morning when they're about to go to work. And then this adds a lot of pressure. And so you would not have enough milk for the baby. In the night, there is this hormone prolactin, which is released, and mothers tend to have a lot of breast milk at night. So we recommend that in the night when you have a lot of milk, you have to start expressing and labeling so that that milk is fed first whilst you're away.
Okay. So when you get to work and you realize that your breast is very heavy and sometimes it becomes really, really painful, but you can't go home, what do you do?
You should have a bag with your breasts. If you want to express manually or using an equipment, whichever, but then have a time where you can go and sit somewhere and then express your milk whilst you're at work.
Okay. And then we'll come back to how do you store that milk?
Okay.
Yeah, this has to do with our the ILO Convention 183, which was passed in the year 2000, but has not yet been ratified in Ghana. It requires, employers to have facilities at the working place for mothers. It requires that the mother should have breaks. We call it nursing breaks, so she can go and feed in between work, or otherwise she can close early to go home. So then, even if she cannot feed in between, she can go into a room. That is the facility I'm talking about, a special room designated for mothers, the nursing mothers, so that she can express the breast milk there. If there is a fridge, she keeps it in the fridge, so that when she's going home, she'll take it home with her for the baby.
Do you know any company in Ghana that is practicing this?
Data Bank, I know,
Data Bank.
Okay.
a nursery for their breastfeeding mothers.
Yes, they have a
But this
nursery
is certainly
crèche.
not common.
A lot of companies are trying to do the same.
Barclays Bank, High Street, they also have, and most of the health facilities. When you go around the country, Koforidua Regional Hospital, Sunyani, they all have a crèche at the Mamobi. They also have a crèche at the workplace, so that you can bring your baby there and feed.
And when it's time to breastfeed. Okay, but for a good number of us who don't have this opportunity, how do you store the milk then? If you're able to bring the things that you need,
Breast milk can be stored at room temperature for 8 hours. And so whilst you express, you can leave it in a cup covered, and it can stay for 8 hours. Yes, so then you're good to go. When you go home, you feed the child with it.
If you're not getting enough of the milk, I mean, if the baby feeds so often and drinks a lot, and so it's still not enough, what do they do at home? Because then you're not there. Is the caretaker and the baby. Are you refusing formula at all?
We are not refusing formula at all. It has the time that it is needed. If the mother has enough breast milk, the mother can breastfeed, then there's no need for formula, because that is the first class, food for the baby. The formula comes as a second, class, as a substitute when the mother has problems or challenges.
Okay, so you can put it in between. You can give the breast milk and then you can give the formula in cases where the milk you've left at home is not enough. Because that's what a lot of mothers are doing. I mean, whether we like it or because they have jobs to go to, and they don't have enough milk to express.
I think most of the time it's due with the support. If they have good support, they will be able to get enough milk, because you can express enough to take care of the baby during the day. I have mothers that I have supported who leave only breast milk, for their babies. I have lawyers, I have bankers, I have, teachers that I have supported personally. So I think most of the time we don't go out to look for the support. If we go out to look for the support at the health facility, the nurses, the midwives will be able to give you all the tips and the tactics that you can use to get enough and leave enough for your baby.
Okay, all right. Finally, Nanika, what's happening this week? I mean, what have you been up to in terms of the celebration?
Today is the breastfeeding lunch at the Civil Service Hall at the ministry area. There's going to be a float at 8 o'clock, after which we go to the hall to launch it officially.
Okay.
And then the other regions are going to launch it as well. We're going to, this whole month, we're going to talk of breastfeeding on air and on radio, TV. And then also with the organized groups, we are advocating for the protection of breastfeeding amongst the trade union groups and then private sector as well.
Okay, so what should people remember with regards to breastfeeding?
They should remember that breast milk is the best for the baby. The baby should be breastfed exclusively for the first 6 months, and complementary feeding continues from 6 months, and total breastfeeding should be for 2 years or more. And then if they have challenges, if they have problems, they should consult. They should go back to the health facility to get the support that they need. There is an NGO called Ghana Infant Nutrition Action Network. We are at the Accra Metro, and they can also consult them. They are there free of charge. They'll give them any support that they want. Yes. Okay. Can I add that in addition to the activities lined up, today after the float, we are going to give a petition to Parliament. In fact, we've just been asked to give it through our minister. So we'll go to the minister and give him a petition on the ratification of the ILO Convention 183 and its recommendations.
Okay.
We want it ratified because it is over there that we can advocate for 6 months maternity leave.
Oh, so you want to enforce this?
Yes, that's what we are asking.
Do you think it would happen?
For. We think so, because we are galvanizing support from all the trade unions. We are asking the mothers, the women groups, we are asking civil societies, organizations to help us so that we can achieve that.
Do you think that companies will be employing women then? Because these days, after you get married, everybody is looking out, is she pregnant, is she not pregnant? And so if you try to enforce this and make it compulsory for women to go on a 6-month maternity leave, soon we will not be getting jobs. Okay, well, I guess this is a discussion that will continue, after the launch, definitely.